Hello and welcome to episode 2 of The Box, a YouTube series in which we teach you how to build. Okay, so today we will be taking a look at triangle optimization and class size. So first let's start with class size. What is class size? Well, it's a measure of how performance impactive a vehicle is going to be. And the game uses it to limit how big we can build our vehicles. Now, we play on the HWS server with a class size limit of 1 on most PvP playfields, so we have to be very conservative with our class size. Class size is calculated by taking the triangle count, lights, and devices and timesing them all together, and then you get your triangle count. Devices will take more of your class size, and triangles will take less of it, and lights will take a lot of it. So there's the tiering there. Lights, obviously, very performance impactive, so they take a big share of the class size, which is why we don't use them. So the only thing we need to worry about is device count and triangles. Now triangles, as I said before, are just surfaces of a block. So as you can see here, this is one triangle because this is one side of a block, right? The block in total will take 6 triangles if it's completely uncovered. And this is how we calculate, or this is how the game gets triangles. Essentially, it's just the surface area. So we can optimize it by removing surface area from the vehicle. And as seen here, we have placed a block in between these two blocks, and we have removed 4 surfaces, right? So we've removed this surface, that surface, and that surface. This one will do 100 triangles, and this one will do 92 triangles. So we've optimized our triangle count by removing surfaces, and that's what we're trying to do. This is an example of what not to do. This is a 3x3 cube, and as you can see, it's quite triangle intensive at 140. And this is not going to give us much internal volume either, because we're only going to get one block in the middle in order to place a single device. So this is very bad. This is the 4x4x4 or 4x4 cube. And as you can see, it leaves us with 9 blocks, but it reveals a lot of surface area on the outside of the hull. So we've got one here, and one here, and one here. We've got a lot of surface on the corners. Now what we can do with this is we can round the edges, as it were. So we can take our 3x3x3 cube, and we can take it down to this rounded edged corner block style. And this will do 108 triangles, and remember that this was 140. So by rounding our edges, we have increased our internal, or we have kept the same internal volume, but we have decreased the total surface area on the craft, thus reducing the triangle count. Now up here we have a more detailed explanation of this. We have taken the same 4x4 and we have stretched it out a little bit, and we've rounded the edges. This is going to give us more internal volume at less triangles. So this will cost us 176 triangles, and this will cost us only 192 triangles. So this one's a lot cheaper, and it will allow us to have more surface area or less surface area to more assistive volume, and that's what we want, right? So this is removed the 2 corner surfaces with 1 wedge. This is just 1 surface, by the way. A wedge is 1 surface, even though it has 2 hitbox points. You can see there that it has 2 surfaces technically by the game standards, like a normal cube, but it is only 1 surface in triangle count. Right. So we can also demonstrate this with corner and corner joiners. I call them tetras and heptas from StarMate. And we can see here that we've got a sort of a 45-degree angled kind of assortment of cubes, and they are all taking up 3 surfaces each for the coverage of this 1 block behind it. And this will do us 100 triangles, which is very inefficient, and this one will do 182. And that is because we have replaced the 3 surface areas on this block with just 1, and the same for the middle block and the same for the outer block. So we have got only 1 surface here, and we've got 3 surfaces here. Now, an important thing to note about triangle optimization is that when you do it, you also have to take into account battle damage, because every time you receive battle damage, more surfaces are going to be revealed, i.e. this. You can see a cube has been destroyed in the middle, and instead of just having one surface, we now have 5, because we've lost the cube in the middle. And this has increased our triangle count to 164 over 156. So by removing one block, we have gone up in triangle count, 164. And if you receive enough battle damage in HWS or on the PvP battlefield, eventually you will be up-tiered to Class 2, and your vehicle will be taken by HWS's server manager. So we definitely don't want that. When designing, it's really important to leave a little bit of room in your class size so that if you up-class, it's not a big deal and you don't get your ship taken. Right, let's have a look at a really inefficient triangle optimization job. So here we have an old model of the Doom Turtle. This was when I was very new to the game, and as you can see, it's making a lot of mistakes. First of all, on the corners here, we haven't rounded them. So we have one face here, and we have one face here. Right, so these two faces are increasing our triangle count. Now, what we can do is we can take the corner off and we can replace it with a corner A, which is just one surface, and get rid of one surface. So we will go from 7,176 to 7,175 just by doing that. And as you can see, we've removed a surface from the vehicle. Now, although it looks like there are two surfaces on this pyramid, right? Because it has one on this side and one on this side. The game is optimized in such a way that it's actually only one. The developer doesn't want these blocks taking up more triangles than absolutely necessary, so he's just basically put a very simple geometric curve on this one surface texture, right? So this is just one surface. Now, another thing that should be noted, that every time we have an upside down or a sideways wedge like this, we're revealing a texture underneath it as well, right? So this here, this is revealing two surfaces. This is actually revealing 3 because it's got the side of the corner joiner. And we can optimize this by replacing it with a corner joiner like that. So we've removed 3 and we've replaced it with 1, 2, right? So that's further optimize the hull, and if we went all the way around the belt here, we could optimize it further and remove more and more of the surface area. And that's the same on this side here, where I've removed the straight flat blocks and replaced them with wedging. Obviously over here we've got a full block and it's got 2 surfaces, but over here we've replaced it so it only has 1 surface. Now, one of the things to keep in mind when you're doing this is obviously it's not going to be very visually appealing to have all of these triangle optimizations, because the hull's going to look very basic. As you can see here, the Stosis in typical PvP fashion is quite uninteresting, very boring, you know, doesn't have a lot of contours or shapes, and that's the point really, unfortunately, to remove as much surface as possible. But you can employ some tactics to get a bit of triangle back and also look visually appealing. Now, this Valkyrie is sort of better looking than most PvP fighters. I would say it's definitely one of the more nicer looking ones, if anything. And what it's done is it's essentially used as much triangle optimization as possible. So it's got corner joiners and actual corners here. And it's also done some sacrificial triangles to kind of increase the aesthetic appeal. So we've got some protruding blocks here that have just added definition to the hull, and we've got some corner blocks here. And even though they're adding 2 surfaces where it would only be 1 if I remove these, it makes it look better. So you're going to have to come up with a balance between visually appealing and triangly efficient. Now, this is an example of a PvP fighter which is just completely throwing that to the curb and is just optimized. So this is a complete corner joiner flat surface, and as you can see, it's just all one big surface, and it's very triangle efficient. This is 5,000 blocks, that's 3,000 blocks. This is the same triangles as that fighter there. So it's very optimized, but it doesn't look very good.
And just one more thing to note about this particular fighter is even though it is very triangle efficient, it's very large as well. So this was considered a general failure because it was so large that it was so easy to hit and it was so difficult to get into because obviously it had to have the door all the way at the back and the middle here that it wasn't a very good fighter. So when you're doing triangle optimizations, it's all about optimizing the current hole you have rather than building from the ground up to be triangle efficient. Most of the craft we have in the Art of Warfare will be a string of holes that have been progressively optimized from the base hole in order to both look visually appealing, be small, and also be efficient in triangles. So when you're designing, just make the hole first and then optimize the triangles. Worry about the triangles later, and you'll be much more successful rather than focusing entirely on optimizing and making this big sphere thing that's just absolutely horrendous. And there are exceptions, of course. This particular shape is used in CVs because CVs are already large, and that's not a problem. But in SV design and HV design, make your stuff small rather than big. The smaller they are, the harder they are to hit. Anyway, thank you for joining me today on The Box. I hope you learned a little something, and have a great rest of the evening.